The surprise that was supposed to fix everything. I still remember the exact moment I decided to buy my wife a car. It was a Tuesday afternoon in early October, the kind of gray, indecisive day where the sky looks like it can't make up its mind whether to rain or not. I was sitting in my office parking lot, engine off, forehead pressed against the steering wheel, staring at the crack that ran through my windshield like a fault line in my life. I told myself this will make things better. That's what I'd been telling myself a lot lately. Emily and I had been married for 12 years. 2 kids. A mortgage in a quiet New Jersey suburb. A white picket fence that we painted ourselves one spring, laughing and arguing over whether it should be classic white or eggshell. We chose white in the end. We always did what Emily wanted, and I never minded until recently. Somewhere between overtime shifts, school pickup schedules, and silent dinners where forks scraped plates louder than our voices, something had slipped through our fingers. She'd never complained about her old car. A 10-year-old Honda with a dented bumper, and a heater that only worked when it felt like it. But I noticed the way she rubbed her hands together on cold mornings before taking the kids to school. I noticed how she waited an extra second before turning the ignition, like she was bracing herself. So I convinced myself that a new car, something safe, reliable, thoughtful, could be a reset button. A grand gesture. Proof that I still saw her. I didn't tell anyone. Not my coworkers, not my brother, not even my best friend Mark, who usually knew everything. I wanted the moment to be just ours. I went to the dealership on my lunch break, heart pounding like I was doing something reckless instead of responsible. I chose a silver Toyota RAV4. Nothing flashy but solid. All-wheel drive. Heated seats. Enough trunk space for groceries, soccer gear, and the life we were supposed to still be building together. When I signed the papers, the salesman smiled and said, "She's gonna love this." I smiled back. I needed that to be true. I planned it carefully. The kids were staying late at school for after programs. Emily thought I was working overtime. I arranged to have the car delivered that evening, just after 5, when she'd usually be home alone. I imagined the scene 100 times. Her opening the door. The keys in my hand. Her laughter, surprised, real laughter, the kind I hadn't heard in months. Maybe she'd cry a little. Maybe we'd hug in the driveway like we used to, not caring who saw. Maybe we'd talk. Really talk. The delivery truck pulled up right on time. The driver handed me the keys and a clipboard. "You want me to wait, or?" "No," I said quickly. "I've got it." I parked the car 2 houses down so she wouldn't see it through the front window. I wanted the reveal to be perfect. I checked my phone, 5:12 p.m. No missed calls. No texts. Good. I took a breath, squared my shoulders, and walked toward the house. That's when I noticed the garage door was slightly open. Emily never did that. A cold, unfamiliar feeling slid into my chest, sharp and quiet. I told myself it was nothing. Maybe she'd gone to throw out the trash. Maybe the sensor glitched. I fixed it last year, but things break. I stepped inside. The house was unusually quiet. No TV. No music. No clatter of dishes. Just the faint hum of the refrigerator and something else. A soft sound barely audible. First, I thought it was the washing machine. Then I realized it was crying. The sound was coming from the living room. I moved slowly, keys still clenched in my hand, heart beating so hard I could feel it in my throat. The closer I got, the clearer it became, quiet, broken sobs, the kind someone makes when they think they're completely alone. Emily was kneeling on the floor. The coffee table had been pushed aside. Our family photos, once neatly arranged, were scattered across the carpet, frames face down, some open, backs removed. She didn't see me. She was holding a photograph in both hands, pressed to her chest like it was keeping her upright. Our wedding photo. Emily was crying the way she hadn't even cried at her father's funeral, shoulders shaking, breaths hitching, face buried in memories I didn't know how to reach anymore. For a moment I couldn't move. This wasn't what I expected to find. This wasn't anger, or betrayal, or distance. This was grief. I cleared my throat softly. She gasped, startled, scrambling to her feet like she'd been caught doing something wrong. Her eyes were red and swollen. Mascara streaked down her cheeks. Oh God, I thought you were. She stopped herself, wiping her face quickly. You're home early. I looked at the photos on the floor. What's going on? I asked. She shook her head. Nothing. I was just cleaning. We both knew that was a lie. I took a step closer. Emily. Her hands trembled. She looked at the photo still clutched in her fingers, then at me like she was weighing something heavy and dangerous. I didn't know you were coming home, she said quietly. I know. Silence stretched between us. Thick. Fragile. I reached into my pocket, felt the cold metal of the car keys, and for the first time since buying them, I wondered if they meant anything at all. I was going to surprise you, I said. She looked up. What? I held up the keys. I bought you a car. Her expression didn't change the way I expected. No smile. No disbelief. No tears of joy. Just confusion. Then something worse. Guilt. You what? She whispered. There's a new car outside, I said. For you. She stared at me like I'd just spoken another language. Oh, she said. That was it. Not thank you. Not why. Just oh. She looked away, pressing the wedding photo back into its frame with shaking fingers. I didn't need a car, she said softly. I swallowed. I know. I just thought. That's the problem, she interrupted, not unkindly. You thought. I felt something crack inside my chest. She sat back down on the couch, suddenly exhausted. I noticed then how tired she looked, not just today but deeply chronically tired. The kind that sleep doesn't fix. I wasn't cheating, she said suddenly. The words hit me like a slap. I didn't think you were, I said, though the truth was more complicated. Fear had flickered. I hated myself for it. She nodded. I know. I need you to understand something. She gestured to the photos. I was packing. For what? I asked. She hesitated. For when I finally say it out loud. My stomach dropped. Say what? I whispered. She looked at me, then really looked at me, and for the first time in months there was no wall in her eyes. Just honesty. I don't know how much longer I can pretend we're okay. The keys slipped from my hand and hit the floor with a dull clatter. And in that moment, standing in the living room of the life I thought I was saving, I realized the surprise I brought home wasn't a gift at all. It was too late. Or maybe, it was exactly the moment everything was about to break open. The truth she'd been carrying alone. Emily didn't cry right away after she said it. That was the part that scared me most. She sat there on the couch, wedding photo resting on her lap, fingers tracing the edge of the frame like it was something fragile she could still fix if she was careful enough. Her breathing was slow, controlled, like she'd already done all the crying before I ever walked through the door. I lowered myself into the armchair across from her. The same chair where I'd rocked both our kids to sleep as babies. The same chair where I'd fallen asleep during late-night movies, Emily nudging me awake, laughing softly. Felt like a different house now. How long? I asked. She didn't pretend not to understand. A while. How long is a while? She thought for a moment. Since I stopped feeling like I could talk to you without making things worse. That answer hurt more than a date ever could. I nodded slowly. Why didn't you say something? She let out a humorless laugh. I did. Just not with words you heard. I wanted to argue. I wanted to say I was always listening. But the truth sat heavy in the room, undeniable. I'd been present in body, absent everywhere else. She reached down and picked up another photo from the floor. This one was of the four of us at the Jersey Shore. Sunburned noses, wind-tangled hair, the kids buried in towels. Emily was laughing in the picture, head thrown back, eyes closed. I don't recognize myself anymore, she said. I look at these and I feel like I'm looking at someone who used to live here. I followed her gaze. You still live here? She shook her head. I exist here. There's a difference. She finally told me what she'd been doing when I came home. She'd been sorting. Not just photos. Papers. Old notebooks. Drawers I never opened. She'd made piles upstairs, keep, give away, throw out. Not because she was planning to leave that night, but because she needed to know if she could. I needed to see what my life looks like without the noise, she said. What's actually mine. What I'd miss. What I wouldn't. And I asked. Her eyes glistened, but she still didn't cry. That's what I don't know yet. I leaned forward. Emily, if you're unhappy. It's not that simple, she cut in gently. I'm not unhappy all the time. I love our kids. I love this house. I even love you. The word even landed between us like broken glass. But, I said. But I feel invisible, she whispered. And lonely. And tired of being the strong one who holds everything together while everyone else just moves on. She looked at me, then really looked at me. Do you know how many times I've cried alone in this house while you were working late? I swallowed. I thought I was providing. You were, she said quickly. You did nothing wrong on paper. That's the hardest part. She stood and walked to the window, arms wrapped around herself. Do you know what broke me? She asked. I waited. It wasn't one big thing. It was 1,000 little ones. You forgetting my birthday 2 years ago. You missing parent-teacher night and not asking how it went. You coming home exhausted and scrolling on your phone while I talked. I didn't realize. I know, she said. That's the point. She turned back to me, eyes finally filling. I stopped telling you when things hurt, because I didn't want to be another responsibility you had to manage. That was when the crying came. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just tears slipping down her face as she pressed a hand to her mouth, trying to keep herself together. I crossed the room and knelt in front of her without thinking. I'm here, I said. I'm listening now. She didn't pull away, but she didn't lean in either. I don't know if now is enough, she said. I told her about the car then. Not the surprise. The reason. I noticed your hands shaking in the mornings, I said. I noticed how you hesitate before starting the engine. I know I miss things, Emily, but I see you. She closed her eyes. I wish you'd seen me when I asked you to sit with me at night. The guilt burned hot and sharp. I thought fixing problems meant fixing things, I said quietly. Bills. Cars. The house. She nodded. And I needed you to fix us. The silence after that was unbearable. I didn't cheat, she said again, softer this time. I didn't even think about it. But I did think about leaving. My chest tightened. When? More than once. I forced myself to ask the question I was afraid of. Do you still? She hesitated. I don't know, she said honestly. That's why I was sorting. Upstairs, the house creaked as the sun dipped lower. Somewhere down the street, a car door slammed. Normal life going on while ours hung by a thread. Can I see? I asked. See what? What you were packing. She studied my face, searching for something. Finally, she nodded. We climbed the stairs together, not touching. In the bedroom, boxes sat open on the bed. Inside were letters I'd written her when we were dating. Old birthday cards. A scarf I gave her on our first anniversary. She picked up one of the letters and handed it to me. You wrote this when you had nothing, she said. No career. No money. Just time. I unfolded the paper. My handwriting was messy, hopeful. I barely recognized myself. I don't know where life will take us, but I know I want to be next to you when it does. My throat tightened. I miss that man, she said. So do I whispered. She sat on the edge of the bed. I'm not asking you to beg me to stay, she said. And I'm not asking you to fix everything overnight. What are you asking? I asked. She met my eyes. I'm asking if you're willing to show up, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's not about solving something. I nodded immediately. Yes. She raised a hand. Not just tonight. Not because you're scared, but because you want me back. I hesitated only a second. I do. Tears finally spilled freely then, and she didn't hide them. I moved closer, unsure if I was allowed to touch her. She surprised me by reaching out first, fingers curling into my sleeve. I'm scared, she said. Me too. Downstairs, through the window, the silver RAV4 sat quietly at the curb. The gift I thought would change everything. I realized then that the real surprise wasn't the car. It was the truth. And whether we could survive it together or not. The night everything came out. That night, neither of us slept. We lay on opposite sides of the bed, backs turned, the space between us wider than the mattress itself. The ceiling fan hummed softly overhead, slicing the darkness into slow, repetitive circles. I stared up at it, counting rotations like they might lead me to an answer. Emily faced the window. Every now and then she shifted, the sheets whispering under her movement. Each sound felt loud. Final. Around 1:17 a.m. she spoke. Do you remember the night we moved in here? I turned my head. Yeah. We ate pizza on the floor because we didn't have furniture yet, she said. You spilled soda all over the blueprints. I smiled despite myself. You made me clean it up with paper towels because we didn't own rags. She let out a quiet laugh. Then silence again. I thought this house would be where we grew old, she said. It still can be. She didn't answer. The kids came home the next afternoon, loud and hungry, backpacks thumping against the walls as if nothing in the world had shifted. Emily wiped her eyes before opening the door. I forced a smile that felt stapled to my face. Mom! Dad! Lily yelled, running in first. Guess what, we're doing a fundraiser. I nodded, pretending to listen, while my eyes stayed on Emily. She moved through the kitchen on autopilot, pouring juice, slicing apples, doing the things she always did. Efficient, practiced, invisible. That evening, after homework and baths, Lily looked out the window. Whose car is that? She asked. Emily froze. I stepped forward. It's Mom's. Her eyes widened. Really? I waited for Emily to say something. She didn't. Lily squealed and hugged her legs. That's so cool. Emily smiled for our daughter, but it was thin, fragile. Later, after the kids were asleep, Emily stood in the garage staring at the car like it might say something first. It's beautiful, she said quietly. I didn't buy it to fix you, I said. I bought it because I thought it would make your life easier. She nodded. I know. Then she asked the question I wasn't ready for. Would you have noticed I was leaving if I hadn't cried today? The truth rose in my throat, bitter and unavoidable. I don't know, I admitted. She closed her eyes. That was when everything came out. Not in a shouting match. Not in anger. In honesty. She told me about the therapy session she'd started 3 months earlier alone. About the notebook she kept hidden in the laundry room where she wrote letters she never sent. About the night she sat in her car for 2 hours after grocery shopping, because she couldn't bring herself to walk back inside. I wasn't running toward someone else, she said. I was running away from myself. I told her about the panic attacks I'd been hiding at work. About the promotion I turned down because I didn't think I deserved it. About how I measured my worth in overtime hours and paychecks. We stared at each other like strangers finally exchanging real names. At 11:43 p.m., Emily said, I think we need help. I nodded. I know. The next morning I took the day off. Not to fix anything. To be there. We sat at the kitchen table, hands wrapped around cold coffee, and made calls. Marriage counselors. Individual therapists. A babysitter. Felt awkward. Unnatural. Necessary. When the kids got home from school, Lily asked, Why are you both here? Emily looked at me. For us, I said. She smiled. This time it reached her eyes. That night Emily cried again. But this time she didn't cry alone. She curled into my chest, sobbing softly, and for the first time in years, I didn't rush to stop the tears or offer solutions. I just held her. Outside, the car sat in the driveway untouched. And for the first time, I understood something I should have learned long ago. Love isn't proven in surprises. It's proven in staying. The hard work of staying. Therapy didn't feel like progress at first. Felt like being cracked open. The counselor's office was small and neutral, gray couch, framed landscape prints. A box of tissues that seemed too close to Emily and too far from me. The therapist, Dr. Karen Lewis, spoke calmly, asked gentle questions, and somehow managed to make silence louder than any argument we'd ever had. "Why do you think you stopped talking to each other?" she asked during our first session. Emily looked at me. I looked at the floor. "I didn't want to disappoint her," I said finally. Emily's eyes filled. "I didn't want to burden him." Dr. Lewis nodded slowly. "So you protected each other into loneliness." That sentence followed us home. The weeks that followed were uncomfortable in ways I hadn't expected. I learned how often I interrupted Emily without realizing it. How quickly I jumped to solutions instead of sitting with her feelings. How my silence, what I thought was calm, felt like distance to her. Emily learned how much she swallowed her needs until they turned into resentment. How she'd learned to disappear so well that she almost convinced herself she wanted to. We fought in therapy. We cried in therapy. Once, Emily walked out to the parking lot and I thought, this is it. But she came back. That mattered more than anything. Then came the setback. It was a Friday evening when Emily forgot to pick up Lily from soccer practice. She'd been at a coffee shop, notebook open, writing. Not crying. Not spiraling. Just being somewhere that wasn't home. The coach called me. By the time I arrived, Lily was sitting alone on the bench, swinging her legs, pretending she wasn't hurt. Emily apologized over and over that night, guilt crushing her. "I'm failing again," she sobbed. I wanted to snap. Wanted to say, "We're trying so hard. How could you forget our child?" Instead, I remembered what therapy taught me. "This isn't failure," I said. "It's adjustment." She looked at me like she didn't believe me. But she stayed. That night she finally drove the car. She pulled out of the driveway slowly, hands gripping the wheel, like she was relearning how to move forward. When she came back she smiled. "It feels safe," she said. I nodded. "So do you." The real test came when my boss offered me a promotion again. More money. More hours. The old me would have said yes without hesitation. This time I went home first. We sat on the porch as the sun set, cicadas buzzing in the background. "They want me to take it," I said. Emily didn't panic. She didn't withdraw. She asked, "What do you want?" I thought about it. "I want to be present," I said. "I want us." She reached for my hand. We decided together. I turned it down. Some nights were still quiet. Some mornings still heavy. Healing wasn't loud or cinematic. It was choosing each other in small, ordinary ways. Sitting at the table a little longer. Asking questions and waiting for the answers. Letting silence be shared instead of empty. One evening, Emily pulled out the wedding photo again. "This one goes back on the wall," she said. "Not all of them. Just this one. Progress." A month later, Dr. Lewis asked us, "Why are you still here?" Emily answered first. "Because he's learning to listen." I answered second. "Because she's learning to stay." Dr. Lewis smiled. That night, as we climbed into bed, Emily turned toward me. "I don't know what the future looks like," she said. "Neither do I. But I'm not packing anymore." I felt tears burn my eyes. Me neither. Outside, the car sat in the driveway. No longer a symbol of fixing. Just a tool. The real work, the real gift was happening inside the house. What I found wasn't the end. 6 months after the night I brought the car home, I stood in the same driveway with the same set of keys. But everything else felt different. The air was warmer now. Late spring. The tree Emily planted the year Lily was born had finally grown tall enough to cast shade over the garage. I leaned against the hood of the silver RV4, watching Emily through the front window as she helped our son tie his shoes. She laughed. Not the careful kind. The real one. That sound still startled me sometimes in the best way. We never became the couple we used to be. And that turned out to be a good thing. The old us loved hard but avoided discomfort. We smiled through issues. We kept the peace at the cost of truth. The new us was slower. More honest. Sometimes awkward. But real. Emily didn't disappear anymore. When something hurt, she said it. Sometimes through tears. Sometimes through anger. Sometimes through a quiet sentence that landed harder than shouting ever could. And I learned to stay. Not to fix. Not to defend. To stay. On a Saturday morning, Emily handed me a small envelope. "What's this?" I asked. She smiled nervously. "Open it." Inside was a photo. Not from our past but from 2 weeks ago. The four of us at the park. Lily mid-laugh. Our son climbing the jungle gym. Emily leaning into me, eyes soft, present. On the back she'd written, "This is us now. Don't forget." My throat tightened. "I won't." We still went to therapy. Not because we were broken but because we refused to drift again. One afternoon Dr. Lewis asked Emily, "Do you regret not leaving when you thought about it?" Emily looked at me before answering. "No," she said. "But I'm glad I gave myself permission to consider it. That's what saved me." I understood then. She didn't stay because she was trapped. She stayed because she chose to. That night I finally told her what I hadn't said out loud since the beginning. When I came home that day, I said, "And saw you crying on the floor. I thought I'd already lost you." She took my hand. "You almost did." The honesty didn't scare me anymore. It grounded me. "What I found," I continued, "wasn't what I expected. I thought I was catching you leaving." She squeezed my fingers. "But you were asking to be seen." She nodded, tears in her eyes. "And you finally looked." We sold her old car a week later. Emily insisted on driving it to the lot herself. When she came home, she pulled into the driveway and turned off the engine slowly, like she was closing a chapter. She stepped out, walked toward me, and rested her head against my chest. "Thank you," she said. "For the car?" I asked. She shook her head. "For not walking away when it got hard." I held her tight. That night, after the kids were asleep, we sat on the porch again. "I don't need grand surprises," Emily said. "I need presents." I smiled softly. "I know." She nudged me. "But the heated seats are nice." I really laughed for the first time in a long time. I used to think love was proven in big gestures. A car. A house. Paycheck. But the day I surprised my wife with a gift, I found her doing something far more important. She was deciding whether her life still had room for me. And the fact that she stayed, that's the gift I'll spend the rest of my life earning. Before we begin, if you enjoy stories that touch the heart and remind us of life's quiet miracles, don't forget to like this video and subscribe. It truly helps our little storytelling family grow.